Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have something super cool to take a look at today. We have another figure from Rod's random work, and it is one that I have been aching to get my hands on. This is his young Carnotaurus, and this is another great day again as far as his dinosaur figures go, because this is like the second, I think, bigger dinosaur that I have from him. The only other one that I have that would be, rivaling this size, I'm pretty sure is his young Tyrannosaurus, which I have already reviewed here on the channel. And now again we have the Carnotaurus, and of course it's really exciting for me because Carnotaurus is my all-time favorite dinosaur, so to have a really nice version of one from Rod's random work is incredibly exciting. And if you can take notice, this one actually has battle damage or dino damage or whatever you'd like to call it. It's got some damage on it, and that is awesome. I love the addition of that really cool kind of old school Kenner feel to it as far as that goes, but I gave it kind of a realistic looking paint job to sort of resemble like what a young Carnotaurus from Jurassic World would look like, because I'm a big fan of that coloration on the Carnotaurus in that film. But at the same time, I left kind of like the seams and stuff, like you see the tail seam and the neck seam and everything. And that's something I didn't do with the young Tyrannosaurus, and I kind of regret it because I like having that sort of action figure type look like we have with this by leaving those seams on there. I feel like it just kind of blends together the action figure or toy style figure like we all love to collect from the Jurassic line with more of a realistic sort of look with the higher quality paint job, or I guess you could say it's higher quality. But it's very nicely done overall, and you can see that it is, again, sculpt-wise, absolutely gorgeous when it comes to a Carnotaurus, and I'm really excited to give a nice closer look to this and show you guys how fantastic Rod's current sculpting skills are, because he just improves with every single sculpt I see from him, and this is no exception. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Carnotaurus, you can see how nice the very fine detail is of this figure. It is just fantastic, especially when it comes to creating kind of a mixture of an accurate Carnotaurus and a Jurassic World Carnotaurus at the same time. Rod has kind of given us the best of both worlds, I think, with the sculpt on this Carnotaurus, and it looks excellent here before us. You can see the really nicely sculpted out nostrils, very fine scale detail in the palate area. You can kind of pick up on like osteoderms through the course of the face. They're just really subtle little osteoderms. They get a little larger as you lead up the back of the head, and more of that skin texture is present here on the lower jaw. You can see kind of more osteoderms and stuff there as well as the really nice skin texture in general. And with a Rod's random work figure, most times nowadays you get articulation, so you can see we have a really nicely articulated jaw, incredibly smooth. You can see it opens to pretty much any distance, and it works really nicely. Very nicely done as far as that goes. The mouth, once open, you can see the inside of the mouth. We've got a really nicely sculpted out tongue in there, and the detail on the inside of the mouth on the upper side as well looks great. So it's as high quality a sculpt as you're going to find when it comes to a Carnotaurus. You can also see the teeth. Very small teeth being a young Carnotaurus. That's exactly what you would expect to see. And they're really nicely present here on the inside of the mouth of the Carnotaurus. And it looks super nice, again, with the mouth opened or closed. Doesn't make a difference. It looks great either way. I love that shot right there from the front. Such a beautiful visual there of the Carnotaurus from the front. But then as you lead up here, of course, to the top of the head, you have that trademark Carnotaurus horn. Really nicely sculpted out as well. As you move back here into the neck, actually, let's just go up above. You can see above we have some nice skin texture, but you also start to get those kind of rows of osteoderms running down the center of the head. And you can kind of see the smaller ones picking up here, and you see them leading down the course of the neck. Again, pretty much that classic trademark Carnotaurus appearance, but yet again, at the same time, pretty much what a Carnotaurus looks like in Jurassic World. And of course, the coloration here is more Fallen Kingdom-like than Dominion, since Dominion has that kind of demon Carnotaurus, whereas this is like original Carnotaurus from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. But you can see some more osteoderms picking up here on the side of the neck, and you can also see some nice structure and muscle definition there in the neck of the Carnotaurus. You've also got the throat really nicely elaborated and sculpted out here on the underside, as well as some more fantastic texturing to the skin. If we get nice and close and show you that, it looks really good. You also have kind of like some creasing and stuff in the skin there of the neck of the Carnotaurus. Moving down here a little bit into the body further, you can see the rib cage very nicely right there shown off. More osteoderms and stuff, as per usual when it comes to a Carnotaurus. You also have the really nice, really small Carnotaurus arms, and you can see we've got the digits there as well. You can also kind of see like some osteoderms to the underside of the stomach here of the Carnotaurus, some more skin wrinkles here, and you can also kind of see how the stomach is sort of sucked in, almost making it appear as though it is in mid-breath, which I think is really cool. And definitely a very fine detail you don't see very often. As you lead up here again to the back, you can continue to see how beautiful that skin texture looks, and it's really fine kind of detailing through the course of the body until you get to the thigh. And not only do you start to see some more osteoderms, of course, in the thigh region, as well as some beautiful muscle definition, but you can see that the scale detail increases in size in the thigh, like it looks a good bit larger than what you see elsewhere on the Carnotaurus. And as you move down, you've got the kneecap present right here on the front of the leg, some nice creasing in the joint of the knee, the calf muscle as well. But as you move down, you can kind of see how the skin detail and everything starts to get a little bit more fine. And once you reach the foot, you've got some pretty darn small scales down there. And I will say an absolutely beautiful foot sculpt on this Carnotaurus. Look at how nice that foot sculpt looks with the nice scoots running down the front of the toes. Incredibly bird-like foot sculpt. Very nicely sculpted out nails. Of course, again, all of the paintwork was done by me. If you purchase one of these, you would get an unpainted version, I would imagine. You might be able to get Rod to paint it for you. I'm not positive on that, but normally you get an unpainted version. And then as you start to lead out into the tail, again, you do have a seam here and here to kind of almost make it look like there would be articulation, but of course there's not. That's just where the tail and the neck connect, but I kept those seams just to kind of continue to give it that sort of action figure style look. But then once we reach the tail out here, you start to see some really nice gore, again, for our dino damage area. And I've given it a really nice gloss coat to make it kind of as disgusting as possible in there, because it's not something that you really see is a lot of realism in these open wound kind of dino damage, battle damage areas of dinosaurs. So with a more realistic and kind of lifelike paint job, I wanted that to also be reflected here in the dino damage area. And then you do have the actual wound area to cover it up, and it does fit in there really nicely. But before we put it in, you can also see the kind of gross detail here on the inside of that as well. So Rod really has not held back when it comes to how nice he wants the model to look. And then once you put that dino damage in there, it fits perfectly. And from a distance, unless you're looking for it, it almost looks like it doesn't even exist. So perfect application of that. And as you lead out the length of the tail, again, more really nice skin texture, but you can also see how the tail comes out in an upward fashion and then ends up trailing down toward the tip out there, which is really cool. And you can also see some more osteoderms running the length of the tail. Very similar look, I think, to the young Tyrannosaurus that he has already released and we have reviewed here on the channel prior. But of course, with the dinosaur being kind of like a straightforward positioning, you're not going to see too much difference over here any more so than what we had seen on the initial side. You can again see how gorgeous the sculpt is, especially as far as the head sculpt goes. I don't know how nice you might think the paintwork looks, because again, this was all done by me, but I was pretty happy with it. Same style of detail running down the course of the neck. Again, you can see the muscle definition in the neck, the nice skin texture and osteoderms and everything leading down into the body. You can yet again pick up on the rib cage over here like we saw on the initial side. You've got again the really nice, very small arm of our Carnotaurus. The legs as well are pretty much in the same position. Again, kind of a neutral position for the dinosaur, and you can see that really nicely there when we hold the legs together. Again, the same style of detailing through the course of the entire figure. Kind of make out the hip bone up there, something I don't think I mentioned on the previous side, but you've again got that beautiful foot sculpt down there. Absolutely love the foot sculpt of the Carnotaurus, and yes, we do have dew claws back there. They're just a little bit hidden. Can't see them too well from where we're at. And then you yet again lead out the length of the tail, which again heads in an upward position and then down toward the tip. Beautiful detailing on this figure, no matter where you look, whether it's the upper side, even the undersides of the feet have fantastic scale detail and just fantastic detail in general to this Carnotaurus. So I would say this is honestly one of my favorite Carnotaurus in my collection. That quickly, it just jumped up immediately as soon as I got this out and started to kind of put it together. It is definitely one of the nicest Carnotaurus figures that I have ever seen. And of course, like we've already mentioned, we do have articulation in the jaw. which works really nicely. But outside of that area, we also have articulation in the arms, which you're not going to get too much, especially on little arms like we've got here. But they both do move forward and back very nicely. And then you also, again, have the articulation of the legs, which can move forward and back. You can hear a little squeaky noise to it, but it definitely works really nicely. And then you have the ability to remove the battle damage, dino damage, whatever you'd like to call it, area as well. And look at the balance of this. And the feet aren't even planted correctly. Once they're planted correctly, look at how super stable that is. Really, really nicely stable. Like, that is absolutely awesome as far as the stability goes. And it was standing again prior without even the feet being completely straight. So that is beautiful stability on top of an incredible sculpt and some fantastic articulation. As far as a size goes, for a length from the snout of the Carnotaurus to the tail, you are looking at about a little over 10.5 inches or 27 centimeters. It's hard to really get that exact measurement because the Carnotaurus kind of keeps trying to walk away as I try to get that. But then for a height, you're looking at about 5 3/4 inches or a little bit over 14.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Rod's Random Work Carnotaurus. And you can definitely see that although it is a young Carnotaurus, it still does have a pretty impressive size. And I definitely like to think you could see that here, especially in comparison to the Papo Rex. But for another comparison, we have the Rod's Random Work Young Tyrannosaurus next to the Carnotaurus, and you can definitely see a little bit of a smaller size. Like if we go up above, the Carnotaurus definitely is a little bit larger there than our T-Rex is. So nice to have a little bit of an increase in size. I always love some size with my figures, and you can definitely see that with this comparison. But we're going to go ahead and actually put them face to face. So there we can now see how beautiful both are again, although the Rex is kind of positioned up a little bit higher currently than our Carnotaurus. You can definitely see that both are incredible versions of the dinosaurs that they represent. And then speaking of young dinosaurs, in the Jurassic franchise, we've got the Kenner Young Rex next to our Carnotaurus. And once again, you can see that the Carnotaurus is a good bit larger. Not super huge, but definitely a good bit larger overall than the Kenner Rex. And then for one final comparison, here is a Mattel Velociraptor next to our Rod's Random Work Carnotaurus, just to give you that one little dose of the size of the figure and hopefully help to give you a rough idea of the fact that it is, although not super huge, definitely pretty nicely sized overall. So this Rod's Random Work Young Carnotaurus is easily one of my favorite Carnotaurus figures that I have, and also in general I think one of my favorite models in my collection. I am completely blown away by how nice this Carnotaurus is. Of course, I'm really partial to Carnotaurus. That's just the way I am. I love Carnotaurus, so I was going to probably love this regardless. Even if it would have been the worst figure ever, I would have been at least somewhat excited about the fact that it's a Carnotaurus entering my collection. But Rod really has outdone himself, and seeing this has me really, really wanting that newer Carnotaurus that he has, that prototype version from the Jurassic franchise. It's like that canceled Jurassic Park Carnotaurus figure that never saw the light of day. He has gone ahead and completely and perfectly recreated that toy for us. And again, seeing how nice this Carnotaurus is, I can only imagine how nice that one is as well. But this is just gorgeous. The sculpting and fine detailing of this is off the charts. He has completely knocked this one out of the park when it comes to the insanely nice scale detail. And I would go so far as to say that this is the best figure that I have had the pleasure of checking out in person from Rod. And that's not just looking at this through biased eyes of it being a Carnotaurus. That's just saying that the overall detailing and appearance to it is easily one of the most impressive dinosaur figures that I've seen in quite some time. Really showing you how talented Rod is, and the fact that he continues to improve all the time is just mind-blowing if you ask me. Of course, the paintwork here was done by me, so if you want to order one and paint it yourself, the paintwork of yours would really depend on you. That's up to you how you would like to paint it, but I was pretty happy with the way mine turned out. And again, the inclusion of things like the dino damage area, which is just a really, really cool touch, was so fun to have included in the building and painting process of this, which there's not really too much building that needs to be done, but the painting process, it was fun to kind of get in there and paint that area out as well. So that was a pretty fun addition to the figure, and just in general a nice throwback to the Kenner era of dinosaur figures. And then you have some awesome articulation on top of everything. and you have yourself a surefire hit, if you ask me, when it comes to this young Carnotaurus. Now, one thing again to keep in mind if you do order this is make sure when you are applying the legs and the arms to heat them up a little bit, like run some hot water over them so they go in there nice and smooth. You don't want to damage the figure because you can definitely break it if you try to just jam those in there. It would be a horrible idea. But once it's put together, everything works great and it looks amazing. So if you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to Rod's Random Work on Instagram where you can contact him. I will also include a link to Rod's Random Work's Etsy shop. And of course, if you do not have social media and you would like to inquire about this Carnotaurus or the Rex that you saw, contact me and I can contact him for you and hopefully get you set up with maybe a timeline as to when this might be releasing again if it's not already on his Etsy shop, as he kind of goes through stock quite frequently on there. He's definitely a pretty popular sculptor nowadays, so if you do see this on there, I would suggest picking it up right away so you don't miss out. And I do want to give a huge shout out to Rod in general for actually being incredibly cool and sending this over to me because he knows Carnotaurus is my favorite dinosaur. So he just very kindly sent this to me out of friendship, and I am forever grateful for that because I now get to add one of my favorite Carnotaurus figures now into my collection. So again, a huge thank you goes out to him. Make sure you pick this beautiful figure up and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.